This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time TNA kill the audio so they can edit in some ADR Bellator plugs, it'll be during a Garrett Bischoff promo. Just call me the spoiler. Have you guys noticed that Impact has been really consistently good since Eric Bischoff left creative, took his ball, and went home? I know it's only been a couple of shows, but still, these last few weeks of Impact have been really strong efforts. And sure, there's things you can pick at, as there always are. Overall, though, this has been good stuff. I don't have much to complain about at all this week. In fact, I only really had 2, maybe 3 issues with this one. And let's just get these out of the way right now. My first problem should come as no surprise to any of you. This Aces of 8 segment. When they're at the top of the hour and starting quarter 5 with a Garrett Bischoff promo, you know something has gone horribly awry. All this time he's had to practice and his mic skills are still just no damn good. You'd think TNA would have gotten a hint by now. Garrett Bischoff plus live mic equals ears bleeding. And that wasn't the only bad thing about this. Why are you even bothering to tease Bully Ray versus Taz? We all know that's never going to happen because Taz can't do anything physical. So that was just dumb. And the swerve at the end with them faking out Anderson, oh my god. I will credit the writers, okay? The swerve itself was very well set up. I didn't see it coming, I was surprised. They get points for that. But the outcome was the opposite of what I wanted to happen. I didn't want to fake out. I wanted them to really put this crappy club out of my misery. And it was so close to happening, but then at the last minute they took it away from me. Why? TNA seemed to be under the impression that people still give a crap about the Aces of 8s. We don't. All I want is for them to just go away. This faction was overstaying its welcome like 6 months ago. Just end it.
Nobody cares about you guys. At all.
My second problem was with this commercial promoting AJ Styles going to Mexico to defend the TNA World title in AAA. Now let me be clear. I think it's awesome that they're doing this. Having AJ go to other companies, other countries like Mexico, Japan, defending the title internationally, and most importantly, staying off of Impact and building suspense for when he finally returns. This is great. This is what the Summer of Punk angle should have been. Unfortunately, as is often the case with TNA, the execution isn't what it should be. They aired this commercial for AJ, paid for by the Friends of AJ Styles, which I'm assuming is Jeff Jarrett. And there were 2 big problems with this. Number 1, it aired during Impact. And number 2, it had Impact footage in it. If AJ is not under contract like they want us to believe, he would not be able to legally use that footage. There's all sorts of copyright issues. The lawyers would pounce on it like rabid dogs. And if this was going to air during Impact, it should have been in the middle of a commercial break, not right next to an ad for the TNA merchandise store. I mean, if you really want to make this thing look like it was produced completely independently of the company, there are certain things you have to do to sell the illusion. Now, I can suspend my disbelief enough to think that someone, somewhere, could produce a commercial supporting AJ Styles and buy ad time during Impact. But when you make it so obvious that TNA produced it and are just saying it's not theirs when a 5-year-old could tell that it is, then I can't buy into it. And my third gripe was the unfortunate lack of fanfare for the Full Metal Mayhem match. If you're going to do a match like this on TV and put it in the main event, for crying out loud, talk it up more. You give it a hype video. Let Hardy and Sabin cut promos before the match. Very underwhelming, the lack of attention that got. Luckily, the match itself made up for it, and now that that's all out of the way, we can talk about the good stuff. Another really strong opening segment here. And just like last week, they covered a lot of ground in a short time. Starting with the main event Mafia was a refreshing change, and the promos were uniformly good. Breaking up the Mafia makes sense. They weren't really doing anything as a group anymore, so best to just end it now before it gets really redundant like the Aces of Eights have. Unfortunately, in retrospect, Sting's reasons for breaking up the group were pretty silly. He said they reformed the main event Mafia to get the world title off of Bully Ray and to take out the Aces of Eights, and they accomplished that. Well, yeah, technically those things did happen, sort of, but AJ Styles took the world title from Bully Ray. The Mafia didn't have much to do with that. And I guess Sting hasn't been watching the show lately because the Aces of Eights are still around. I mean, yeah, the faction is a total joke and everyone knows it except them, but they do at least still exist. But now apparently Sting just feels like the Aces of Eights have become so meaningless that the main event Mafia just isn't needed to dispose of them anymore. Pretty hard to argue with that one, actually. Worst faction ever. Again, TNA surprises me with this Sting-Magnus angle. For the last couple weeks, I haven't been able to tell where it's going, and I still can't. First, Sting acts like Magnus just saw an opportunity in the Battle Royal match and he took it, and there were no hard feelings. But then you get that little tease at the end that there's still tension there, and maybe Sting feels that Magnus might have some kind of sense of entitlement without paying his dues or something, if Magnus was who Sting was referring to. And if he was, again, I really don't see it. Magnus has paid his dues, and he had to wait for his push for a good couple years. And he beat Sting clean at Bound for Glory. He didn't break any rules in that Battle Royal. He won the match fair. Sting might not love Magnus's attitude at certain points, but he really hasn't done anything wrong. It feels like Magnus earned what he's getting, so to tease something like this when you've got a character like Ethan Carter III, who is the total embodiment of what Sting was talking about, is very strange. To be honest, this kind of felt like the old heel main event Mafia Sting, the one that acted like a holier-than-thou self-righteous prick. Now, he could very well have been talking about EC3, and if he was, then that's just fine. But there's still something unresolved with Magnus there, which I assume they'll revisit at some point. So there's a couple different ways this story can go, and I like that. I like that they're keeping me guessing. Something I thought was very good about this segment was how it transitioned seamlessly into other stuff, like this Kurt Angle-Bobby Roode storyline. And damn, did they turn up the heat on that one. I mean, yes, I kind of rolled my eyes when they got separated and the show went to a commercial, and when they came back from commercials, Roode just came right back out and they started fighting again. But the fighting was great, the performances really sold it, and this feud feels hot as hell all of a sudden. And you have to give a lot of kudos to Kurt Angle for letting himself be put in this position. They're doing something with Kurt now that TNA has really struggled with in the past, making their established veterans look vulnerable. For a long damn time in this company, guys like that, and I'm not naming names because we all know who they are, were always protected. So much so that it really limited, or in some cases completely killed, their ability to make new stars. But if you make them look just a little bit vulnerable, it can do wonders. Not so much that it hurts the veteran, but just enough for the audience to think that the young guy can potentially beat him. They're doing this with Kurt Angle now, and thanks to that, they were able to make Bobby Roode and Austin Aries look like they were on the same level as him. That segment where Aries and Roode are trading barbs, and then Aries comes out and cuts a promo on Angle, and then all three of them started fighting, that was great! They should have been doing this kind of stuff with the veterans a long time ago. Yes! I will admit, I face-palmed pretty damn hard when I heard TNA were bringing back Adam Pac-Man Jones. There were Team Pac-Man flashbacks. I was not looking forward to this at all. But this was another pleasant surprise. Him and that other dude from the Bengals get antagonized by Bad Influence. They get into a fight with Bad Influence, which was actually pretty cool. And they didn't dwell on it for ages. It didn't overstay its welcome. It lasted just long enough to get TNA a plug on SportsCenter or whatever. and then the football guys went back to their seats, and that was it. I was fine with this. And then Bad Influence got their heat back by beating Eric Young and Joseph Park later in the night, so everybody wins. I was really skeptical about it, but honestly, I thought this turned out pretty well. It was fun, you know? I mean, this is what I wish they had done with Pac-Man the last time instead of that Team Pac-Man nonsense that nobody liked. When I saw this #1 Contenders knockout match on paper, I wanted to bang my head against a wall. I was like, oh, God, they're just recycling the same women over and over, and Gail's faced them all 1,000 times. But surprisingly, they took something that I didn't care about whatsoever and turned it into something great. The match itself was pretty good, even though I didn't care about it. And I think a lot of you probably didn't care about it either for the same reasons. So when Gail and Tapa caused a DQ, took out all the girls, and announced that Gail Kim's open challenge to newcomers that she was talking about in that YouTube video weeks ago was finally starting, I jumped out of my fucking seat. This can only mean that new knockouts, or at least one new knockout, is finally on the way and not a moment too soon. Hallelujah!
Yes! 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 Yes!
Last week, I said that I liked this Ethan Carter III character, but it was time to start progressing this angle of him being spoon-fed jobbers before it got old. And it looks like someone heard me. And yes, EC3 was just squashing Dewey Barnes again, but at least we're getting some storyline movement on this now. I mean, Dixie gives him the right to pick his own opponent, and then he still goes for the jobbers. That was funny. It's not much progression, but it's something. At least something different is starting to happen, and that's all I wanted. And the angle looks like it's getting over now, too, so they can probably expect a pretty decent pop when a real opponent finally gets their hands on this guy. Maybe it'll be Sting, who knows? Truth be told, I was disappointed with how little time the Full Metal Mayhem match got. I was very happy to see it in the main event spot, as it should be, but by the time it got started, they only had about 11 minutes for it, and that was with a slight overrun. But with Sabin's knees post-ACL surgery, I guess you had to expect that a match as brutal as this wouldn't go incredibly long, and they'd probably be picking their spots very carefully. And they did. But even though the match was shorter than I would have liked, they managed to pack a lot of stuff into those 11 minutes, and I thought it was damn good. They actually did more than I thought they would here. I loved the neck breaker on the ladder. The table spot was really creative, with Hardy getting his knees up but going through the table anyway. And the swanton at the end that looked like Hardy killed himself. I'm very glad Sabin left the shortcuts and heel tactics in the back. The match was better for it. And this was a hell of a way to close the show. This was great stuff. I'm already enjoying this tournament a lot more than the Bound for Glory series this past summer. I mean, this time it looks like the writers are really focused on not only making these tournament matches feel important, but also the potential matches that we may or may not get. Even if some of those matches don't end up happening, they were really working to cover all those bases, and it paid off. And if most of these matches can get big spots and deliver like this one did, I think this tournament is going to be awesome. There was a lot of good stuff this week. Garrett Bischoff's horrid mic skills notwithstanding. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I've gotten a really good feeling from these last couple shows. It's starting to feel like TNA again, rather than Hogan and Bischoff's pet project. Their influence is being washed away, and that really makes a big difference. The show has a lot more energy, it's not boring anymore, and that makes me feel really good, you know? I needed something like that. Especially with all these ridiculous rumors being spread by you-know-who over here. And I know that some of you were freaked out by how last week's video ended, so let me put your fears to rest right now. I am confident that with what I'm doing here, I am marching towards something great. I assure you, these rumors are just rumors, and I remain committed to this YouTube channel and its future. Funny. That's not how you reacted when you heard about this last week. No, 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 no. My YouTube channel is for sale. This is the end of everything. God damn it, how can this be happening to me? No! Be that as it may, I take this all as a big learning experience. Now I know not to believe every crazy rumor that pops up online. And quite frankly, after all your sick mind games and all the lies you've spread about me just to get yourself over, I don't see why I should listen to anything you have to say without proof. And that goes for you guys too. It's just a rumor, people. Over. Out.